So was a guy who wants to run for Congress as a Republican and donated tens of thousands of dollars to Donald Trump and has pictures with Ivanka and Eric and Don Jr. and Donald Trump himself and all kinds of other people in Trump's orbit. Was this guy trying to hire a hitman in Ukraine to take out our ambassador? And was Rudy Giuliani like down with that? He was okay with that? Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. This is breaking news. It's kind of electrifying Capitol Hill and the Washington Press Corps right now. Catherine Tully McManus wrote a piece about it for Roll Call. The headline, Impeachment Trial Security Crackdown Will Limit Capitol Press Access. The Senate Sergeant at Arms and Capitol Police are launching an unprecedented crackdown on the Capitol Press Corps for the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Now, unprecedented, absolutely. There was no limiting of the press during the Clinton impeachment. So what are they going to do? They're basically saying that reporters may not come into the Senate during the impeachment hearing. They may not interact with the members of the Senate. They can't follow people around. They can't ask them questions. They can't go on the floor. There is going to be a press pen, they're calling it, on the second floor of the Senate, kind of out of sight and out of mind. And if a reporter wants to be in the Senate, in the Capitol building during the impeachment, they have to stay in that press pen, and they have to be escorted to it and from it. This is mind-boggling. There's a group of reporters who are all credentialed in the House and Senate. They've been through the security checks and everything, right? And they're just regular reporters who regularly show up there. And they have this group called the Standing Committee of Correspondence, which is kind of their trade association, as it were. And they are screaming about this. They just said that, this was done without any explanation of how the restrictions might contribute to safety rather than simply limit coverage of the trial. Well, obviously, it's intended to limit coverage of the trial. It's just very straightforward stuff. Meanwhile, we're discovering, just insane stuff that came out of this release of Lev Parnas's iPhone and text messages. The star of the show seems to be this guy Robert Hyde, Hyde, who lives in Connecticut but spends a lot of time down in Florida. Remember the Chinese woman, and I mean, literally from China, who owned some massage parlors down in Florida that I think she owned one of the ones that, one of Trump's buddies got busted at, in a prostitution hit and all this kind of stuff. She was introduced to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago by another Mar-a-Lago member, and that's this guy Robert Hyde, and he's the one who was texting with Lev Parnas, and he was keeping Lev Parnas up to date on where Marie Yovanovitch was. Marie Yovanovitch was our ambassador in Ukraine to Ukraine. And Lev Parnas, of course, was one of these, Lev and Igor, these two Ukrainian-born, I believe they were both born in Ukraine. They were both born in the former Soviet Union, in any case. Now American citizens who were arrested trying to flee the country on one-way tickets out of the country. And now he has been charged with funneling several $100,000 from Russia into the Trump campaign, which is illegal. So that's what he got busted for, and he's trying to get out of the charges by saying, well, here's the information. And it's like some kind of a mob hit or something. It's just, which is what Mimi Rocha, the former federal prosecutor, called it on MSNBC last night. But this is, Robert Hyde, this is just an amazing story. Over at Yahoo News, there's Catherine Garcia wrote, about how Natasha Bertrand was saying, this certainly makes it sound like Parnas and company were actively tracking Yovanovitch's movements And then Mimi Roca says, as a former mafia prosecutor, this sure sounds like a mob hit was being planned on a public servant in a foreign country by associates of Donald Trump. It was Donald Trump who told the president of Ukraine that Marie Yovanovitch was going to go through some things. Right. So here's, Robert Hyde is texting with Lev Parnas, exactly where she is, and she's in the building or she's not in the building, and one of the texts said that security forces are, quote, willing to help get rid of Yovanovitch, quote, if we/you would like a price. In other words, all we have to do, we got some people who are willing to kill her or kidnap her or harm her in some way. If you want me to ask them how much they would charge for that. Now that's what, this is just crazy stuff. Robert Hyde, by the way, this is a story over at Mother Jones by Matt Cohen. The headline, New Figure in Ukraine Scandal was taken into police custody at Trump Resort last year. This is Robert F. Hyde. He's running for Congress in Connecticut as a Trump candidate. He's 40 years old. He has donated tens of thousands of dollars to Trump. He's tried to set himself up as a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., or at least down at Trump's properties. He's got all kinds of pictures of himself with Trump, with Ivanka, with Don Jr., with Eric, with Mike Pence, Jim Jordan, Roger Stone, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He did PR work for this woman who owned the massage parlors. He's and there's this 2019 police report that Mother Jones got. And quoting from the article about it, that Hyde had a disturbing episode at a Trump resort for which he had to be taken into custody by police and brought to a medical facility under a state law that allows for involuntary confinement. In one of Hyde's text messages to Parnas, this is from Hyde. This is a very dark tone from these things. One said, it's confirmed we have a person inside. He's talking about Yovanovitch. And then another text message says, guess you can do anything in the Ukraine with money. Right. So what happened was, this was a police report that was filed on May 16th of last year. It said about 7 months ago. And he told a police officer, this is from the police report, quote, he reported to the police officer, quote, he was in fear for his life, was set up, and a hitman was out to get him. Mr. Hyde spoke about emails he sent that may have placed his life in jeopardy. Now, this all happened right after he was corresponding with Lev Parnas about putting a hit on or something on Ambassador Yovanovitch. He told the police that he sent an email, and because of that, a hitman was coming to get him. Mr. Hyde spoke, again from the police report, Mr. Hyde spoke about emails he had sent that may have placed his life in jeopardy. Mr. Hyde explained several times that he was paranoid that someone was out to get him. Mr. Hyde continued to act paranoid, telling us not to stop next to certain vehicles. He explained that he was scared due to several painting workers and landscape workers trying to do harm to him because they weren't working. Mr. Hyde further explained his computer was being hacked by the Secret Service and went on to further explain that the Secret Service was arriving on the premises and watching him. After a couple of weeks after this was May 16th, a couple of weeks later, he posted to his own Instagram account that he had been Baker Acted. Now, the Baker Act is a law in Florida that allows the police to stick you in jail or in a mental hospital, typically actually a mental hospital, without your consent, if they determine that you represent a threat to yourself or to others because of mental illness. Hyde is a former Marine. He wrote in this Instagram post that he had been placed into a facility where mental, emotional, and physical self were pushed. I am not a traitor or a colluder or a conspiracy theorist. F you and your intelligence agencies or whatever, or whoever was or is effing with me, he wrote on Instagram, EFFING. And then he tweeted, the media is against me because they're either complicit or have a hand in it. Last month, by the way, he got some bad press for posting a crude and sexist tweet about Kamala Harris. But this guy who has, raised a lot of money for Donald Trump, got a lot of pictures with him and Trump and the entire Trump family. I mean, this is just like bizarre stuff. And I see no evidence that the Attorney General has said, we need to look into this. Or for that matter, Mike Pompeo, the head of the State Department, he was Marie Yovanovitch's boss, or was until she left office. And he's not out there saying, no, we want to protect our ambassadors. I mean, this thing stinks. This is like, we made jokes a couple of years ago when Trump was elected about his involvement with the Mafia in New York, building his building and stuff. But this is like, this guy is behaving like a mob boss, or at least the people under him are.